Hi, David.
Hi, Carrie. I got a good signal.
Yeah, you're fine. We are actually going live right this minute, and I'm just setting things up and making sure they're all working. But so far, so good. Uh,
Okay.
do you have video? Because this is meant to have video.
Yeah, I got video.
Okay, very good. So let me see if I can get the video working on my end. This is always a challenge. Hi, everyone. We're about to start. So, anyone who's out there, just letting you know that we're about to start, and people will probably be showing up shortly. We're actually a little bit early. So, if you wanted to put this on hold and just come back in 10 minutes, in 5 minutes or so, David, you could, now that we know that so far everything looks fine. Um,
I'm just doing emails. I'm getting 300 emails a day.
I hear
It's
you.
crazy.
Okay, well, this is going out over the air.
There's so
um,
many emergencies out there, and I'm trying to help everybody with just a little bit of help and
okay.
answer the emails and sort out their problems. So
Okay. Now, are you able to sit up in your chair a little higher because your face, in terms of the video, is a little low down? Okay, that's that's better. Doesn't have to be quite that high, but yeah, we're getting there. Okay, that's
it's
great.
just a matter of moving the computer. There
Oh,
you
all
go.
right, fine, excellent. Okay, yeah, that's better. Got rid of the green background that was a little intense.
Just the lighting. That's all that
I
is.
see. Okay. Well, I guess we're both on time for a change. Usually I'm about 15 minutes late, so I don't know why I'm on time, but I am. Uh, so I don't know. I guess we could start if you're up for it. I don't think some people may not be here just yet, so that's the only thing.
Sure. So whatever questions you got.
Well, I'm going to have lots of questions, and the audience, what they have is, in fact, if I don't know if your wife wants to watch on live stream, but she can watch it on live stream in another room if she wants to. All she has to do is go to the front page of Camelot and click on the banner. It'll take her to our live stream channel, and she'll see the poster of you on the channel, and she'll be able to watch it there if she it might be interesting. She can also type. Anyone can type questions into the live stream. There's a chat box next to the screen, and that's what people do. They have a chat going while we're talking, and what I ask is that everyone put their questions in all caps. So that's always a good way for me to catch the questions. And then if there's anyone listening who wants to also Skype me the questions, gather the questions, and then send them on Skype to me, that can be very helpful. But it's not mandatory. It's just it could be helpful. I've actually got two computers set up so that I can see both screens and see what's going on. Uh, all right, so let me see where we are at time. We're about 4 minutes short of time here, and um,
This is the ring you've probably heard a lot about.
no, I actually haven't heard anything about your ring. Okay, what's actually, I should put that on video. Hold on one second. Let me before I'm going to ask you to do that again in a minute. I want to see if this will work at my end. It's always some kind of weird thing going on with the screen when I do this.
I get a lot of comments about it. That's all.
You do?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's a 9 carat diamond ring.
I see. I hope you're not going to tell me Rothschild gave it to you.
No, no, I want it. I got the diamonds way back in '76
Okay,
from Israel.
from Israel. Okay,
That's before everything went crazy. in the world. Once remember the recession of '79, and gold went up from $100 to $1,000, and silver went from $1 to $50. I got in real cheap at the
I,
bottom of the
okay,
market.
when was that?
1976. 79, everything went crazy. The recession of '79, when Bunker Hunt tried to corner the silver market and drove the price of silver to $50 an ounce.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I probably 79. I was not paying attention to that sort of thing back then.
Oh, I was. Big time.
So, what happened? So you got the ring. I still don't get. Show the ring now that I've got you on the screen. Actually, why don't you show the ring? So there's the ring. Um, I'm not sure what. Okay, so everyone can see the ring. Great. Um, yeah, I don't know what that means. Do you?
Well, no, it's just that
Why? I
in
don't. Why did they give you the
when
ring?
I was 18 years old, I crushed my ring finger, and they had to remove the muscles, so I just have a tendon. So I had to wear a ring on my finger to keep the tendon in place. Well, if I was going to wear a ring, I said, might as well be a nice one. So
Okay.
I was gambling on the stock market, and I had 16 consecutive wins, and so I invested in diamonds, and then the price of diamonds went up. So,
You invested in diamonds and the price of diamonds went up. So is that, I don't understand. Is that where you got the ring?
well, yeah, I had a diamond sitting for a long time, and then I finally put it into a thing. Took me 3 months to hand carve our gold into the ring setting, and I wanted something unique. It is unique. I've never
I
seen anything like it in any book.
I see. And so you designed the ring,
Yeah,
is what you're saying. Um,
right.
well, okay. Now it's green again in the
It's
background.
just a hobby. I can't
Designing
control
jewelry
that.
is a hobby.
Oh, we're getting, it says here the connection between you is too slow for good video. Turn up your video to get better sound quality. Uh,
Why don't you turn your video off and on again, and then we'll see how it goes. Because we want to see you on video. I think people really would appreciate being able to see you on video.
well, there's pictures up there of me. There are
It's
pictures, actually.
um, well, your video picture is breaking up. There's no reason why that should be the case. You're just talking to me on Skype, like in your case, normal, right?
Yeah, there's not, well, it's raining here. We've been raining for 4 days, and so the satellite feed from Hawaii to the mainland, we're socked in here real heavy.
Okay.
We're getting probably an inch of rain here an hour on 4 days now.
Okay.
They got
And
flash,
which
they got
island?
flash all over on Maui and the valleys. They got flash floods.
Oh,
Some of these little creeks, they're only 6 inches, 6 feet wide and 6 inches deep, or got 10 feet of water going down them.
right.
It's been really hard, heavy here. We got a big weather system over the Hawaiian Islands right now.
Oh, okay. So you think that's affecting the video?
Yes, they do.
Oh, God. All right. I guess I'll
I
have to
don't know.
take that as I'll take that. I have no choice. I'll have to believe it.
There's, as long as your sound, the people get the information,
Well,
that's
sure.
fine.
It's just that there's a sort of a side to this where people see your face and it's a positive because they can sort of see your expression when I ask you a question and your human reactions, that sort of thing. So it just can be nice, obviously, to see a person and to see their, like I can see you smile right now, and that's nice. I wouldn't know you're smiling if I wasn't psychic, I wouldn't know you're smiling. No, just kidding. Okay. So here we go. We're gonna actually try this and see if we can get this to work. For some reason, I don't know. I'm sort of sort of hidden here. Okay, let me know when you're ready, and I'll sort of do my introduction. I don't know why my video is cut off like in half. So you see half my head.
I can't see you. We see a picture of you.
I know. Well, because my video is trying to work, but it's not working. And it's always a mystery. Okay, so
Your computer.
as to why it doesn't work and why you only see part of me. Let's see if this helps. Okay, I think this helps, sort of. Oh God, it's all right. So hopefully people are watching and listening. Okay, this is Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot, and I'm here with David Wynn Miller. He is in Hawaii, and he's inundated with rain, so he may be having some difficulty getting the video to keep working, but for the moment it's working, although it's a little hazy looking, and but we'll try to continue from here. It does have a very strange yellowish green cast, but
Well, the wall is yellow.
The wall's yellow. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I got a green shirt. I got a blue shirt on that shows up green, and I got a yellow wall behind me. So I don't know.
Okay.
My color is kind of messed up here.
I get it. And I can see the chat. So if anyone in the chat is having trouble with audio or video at any time and wants to make a comment about that, feel free. What I'd like you to do is put your questions as we talk in all caps in the chat. And if the volume good? If anyone has an issue with volume, let me know. I can turn the volume up at my end. It's pretty high actually at my end, so it should be fine.
I've got a good signal.
Okay. All right, great. So here we are. David, what I'd like you to do is give yourself an introduction, because some of the people couldn't make it for the radio show and haven't been able to see the radio or listen to the radio show. And I'm sure they'd like to get some background on you. We know, or what I'm saying here is that we know what you have had to say, because you put 25 videos out there. They're actually probably each about, 15-20 minutes long, right?
Well, there's more than that. There's
Yes.
the 25 videos from the September 2012 seminar. There's the seminar from Australia, which is 17 videos, which is I believe 20 hours long. There's over 2 million different linked websites that carry different videos on over 20 different carriers. We have, as of yesterday, there were 50 million linked websites to my website. Other websites linked to them to my website. We have 5 billion people, according to my counters, or 5 billion different
Okay,
computers.
well, I do appreciate that, but I have to say that we actually had somebody. There's a slight delay, so it's hard. If I know that we had this problem before, but because with Skype, the technology should be excellent, but it's not. There's no reason why we should have these weird things going on. But I just want to tell you that I do apologize if we have a delay and I ask a question and he's still talking, or vice versa, because there is a delay. I just want to say that we had somebody look at your counter. Whoever's doing your counter is not actually doing it accurately. And if you'd like more information on that, you can contact us. We do have somebody who's a technical.
This is my web. It tells us all the area codes worldwide, how many people are coming in from different area codes, and so it gives us the information. This is over the last 14 years.
I hear you, but I'm just letting you know that we did have somebody take a look at that. But that's not the subject of this conversation, so we'll just move on from there. I appreciate that you have been quite a popular individual, and Camelot is very happy to have you on the show here with us. I would love it if you would give yourself a brief introduction, explain what you're doing as your mission on Earth, as you understand it at this time, if you don't mind, and then also describe how you got into this field.
All right. I'm a federal judge now, 15 years, since June of 1997, here in Hawaii. And I have my judge's oaths filed in probably about 30 of the 50 states, based on how many lawsuits have been acted with. My oath is also filed at the United States Supreme Court, which is Justice Department with the United Nations as a plenipotentiary judge. On August 12, 1999, I captured the flag of the United States of America when I syntaxed the Title 4 USC 1, 2, and 3 as a fictitiously conveyed document. And then I wrote a new quantumized definition for the flag. And the government, we also filed with the United Nations, we filed sovereignty papers in quantum grammar for a quantum constitution, quantum bank treaty, quantum postmaster position, and ambassadorships for 82 countries. And the United Nations voted that, and then we sued the United States Congress, Senate, Legislature, and Supreme Court to show their oath of office with the correct parse syntax grammar and bring forth the laws, rules, regulations, and codes with the correct sentence structure, communication, parse syntax grammar for the description of the flag, and nobody showed up for court. So the United Nations ruled that I was a sovereign individual and I owned the flag, which I then changed to the first sentence structure, communication, parse syntax flag of the Unity States of our World Corporation. Later, we changed the name from Unity to Corporation State of the World, because Russell Gould and I are two, so that makes us corporation, and our responsibilities are only to correct syntax on documents, treaties, trusts, contracts, anywhere in the world that we are represented with these documents. The United States, after that, has been using a 3x4 flag, a 3x5 flag, a yellow fringe flag, and by changing the dimensions of the flag, they change the jurisdiction. And if you look in Title 4, you'll see there's 11 different types of flags used by the United States government. My background in getting into this was in 1980, when I went through a divorce. A judge, Stanley Miller, took away my children, saying men cannot nurture children. I sued him under the 1964 Civil Rights Act for discrimination, and he was removed from office. He was replaced by a judge named Wazalewski, and I had 65 consecutive trials where he was not giving me equal shared parenting. And under a writ de novo, I sued for the same thing, in 1964 Civil Rights Act discrimination case. Finally, in 1985, he gave me equal shared parenting with my children. And he says, "Are you satisfied now?" I says, "No, I'm going to sue you for discrimination because you didn't do it the first 64 times." So he says, "Every time you say yes, I'm going to say no. And every time you say no, I'm going to say yes." I says, "Well, there's 3 plus 3 equals 6. He says, "Yes." He says, "What? You just agreed with me. You said you'd never agree with me." He said, "Well, no one ever went to war over a math problem in the history of mankind." So it took me about 10 seconds to realize, you're saying to me, if I can write a complaint, I write it with the correct mathematics, the correct quantum, parse syntax grammar, that I will get my equal shared parenting, or I will win this case. But I won't win it because you say you can win it. I'll win it because my contract is correct. He says, "Yeah, no one's been able to do that, or prove that in 8,500 years." He says, but you're a smart guy. You'll figure it out. Well, it took me 3 years. And on the 6th of April, 1988, I published the mathematical interface on parsing syntax grammar. And we built this program where my website is 400 pages long, and I've done 2,500 seminars on grammar. And through spending 80,000 hours in 33 years in the study of grammar and law, I've acquired the education that I have today to come on your show and answer the questions and give people chapter and verse of information they need for specific questions that they have. So that's pretty much where we are right now.
Okay. And we are having some difficulty with the sound quality, I'm afraid. So if people are having difficulty understanding him, let me know in the chat, and we will revert to audio for a time, and then possibly just go back and forth between audio and video as necessary. Because
the internet here is by dish, and with the heavy rain, the dish signal would be modified because of the rain on the dish, and also because of the fact it's got to bounce through the clouds to the satellite and back over to California. So,
okay,
that's where you're going to have. As soon as the weather clears up, we'll have a good feed.
Okay, and that will be exactly when?
It's been raining for 4 days. It doesn't look like it's going to stop soon.
I see. Well, that's not really going to help us. Maybe I should have checked the weather in Hawaii before I invited you on this live stream, and we could have avoided the troubles we're having. Okay, so you basically were challenged by the judge. You decided to get your kids back, and you devised, based on what his advice was to you, this Parse syntax grammar, correct?
Yes, and I've also been successful in changing the laws in all 50 states for equal shared parenting to avoid lawsuits of these complexities. Because when a judge or a series of attorneys discriminate against an individual through modification of grammar, they activate a Title 29, Chapter 16, Section 701 handicap. All the courthouses have handicap ramps, right? And all your street corners have curbs so people with wheelchairs can move around freely. And handicap laws under discrimination are very pronounced. Whether you speak a foreign language, if a person comes in speaking Spanish and you have an English-speaking judge, an English-speaking prosecutor, they have to have a translator. So they cannot discriminate by handicapping an individual for communication skills. When I went ahead and I looked at what they were doing, stealing money, 7% of America is divorced. They were taking money from people. A modification of grammar was taking place and denying children equal shared parenting, as well as the parents of equal visitation with their children. When I sued through modification of grammar under the handicap laws, modification of grammar was Title 18, 1001, the fictitious conveyance of grammar. And then when you use false misleading information under Title 15, Section 1692E, it carries a $25 million fine under Title 15, Section 78FF. And this is forensic evidence when the documents that the lawyers and the attorneys and the judges produce to use in court to stop and correct the damages done through discrimination. It's very black and white. And when you go and you use case law has no continuance of evidence to noun time and violates the rules of evidence. So therefore, we work in now time using correct parse syntax grammar. We do not use words that start with a vowel, A, E, I, O, or U as a single syllable, or vowels followed by two consonants because that means no contract. if you put a word that is negative or no contract into a sentence, it's like taking a math problem and multiplying it times zero. The answer is zero. If you take a fact and multiply it by a lie, it's a lie. So what we're doing is we're bringing correct grammar into a mathematical interface and proving it frontwards and backwards.
Okay.
So that,
Can I ask you a question? Because I understand what you're doing, and I'm hoping that the people watching this did their homework and watched your your videos, and got some background. But what I'd like to know is if you understand what they did and what they are doing, it basically keeps the power in their court. Wouldn't you agree?
no, it doesn't. It puts the power into the person because the court system, all courthouses are foreign vessels in dry dock under the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 44. And the judges are foreign vessels, foreign court as an actor under Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 44.1. Because the judge is an actor, he's on a different plane. Just like when you go into a theater, you have theaters sitting, the actors stand on a stage. You're all on different planes, so there's no continuance of evidence from what you think you're seeing and what you're hearing.
Okay, but the reality of the matter is that all these years that they've been using the courts and the language the way they've been using it has kept power in their hands. And what you're talking about is basically simply taking their literal information, the way it was literally set up, and following those rules. Isn't that right? I mean, you're following their original rules, the rules they meant, the literal meaning of the rules. Isn't that correct?
Right. When you have a math problem, you have order of operations. If you violate the order of operations, you wind up with the wrong answer. When I say to you, what's the answer to the number 2 plus the number 2 divided by the number 2?
Okay.
Or the number 4 plus the number 4 divided by the number 4. The person comes back and they say, like 4 plus 4 divided by 4. They come back and they say 2. When I ask people all over Europe and all over Asia, they all know the correct answer because they apply operations. They don't answer that 4 plus 4 is 8 and 8 divided by 4 is 2. It's 4 divided by 4 is 1 and 1 plus 4 is 5. You must divide before you add. Don't file operations. That's the wrong answer.
Can I ask you to turn your video off for a little bit, and let's see how the audio is without the video, because some people are having trouble understanding you.
All right. How's that?
We're going to need you to talk a little bit longer to really be able to determine if this is going to help. We do have a picture of you on the screen still, but just be aware that any kind of sort of moving around of furniture and fidgeting and hitting your computer is put out over the audio quite loudly. So we are hearing that. But if you could explain in terms of what I'm asking you to do, in a sense, is look at step back and look at both systems. In other words, the system you came up with is a system that literally takes the rules that they devised and puts it back in their face because they've been breaking their own rules. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Because you have 250 countries with different languages, you have a standard operation. What is an adjective? What is an adverb? What is a pronoun? What is a preposition? What is an article? What is a fact? And you have to, those definitions are the same no matter what language you speak. Now they had the operations of how these words are used and what creates the definition of these words. If I said the is for the, you're going like, Well, that doesn't make any sense. The operation of those 6 words is that the first is a adverb. It modifies the second to be a verb. Is now an adverb, making the next word for to be a verb, and is an adverb, making the last word to be a verb. So we've got adverb, verb, adverb, verb, adverb, verb. Now, if I want to emphasize a different way of the is for the, then the first is a pronoun. The second is an adverb, modifies the verb is, the adjective is, making for to be a pronoun, is an adverb, now making the last word to be a verb. So now I've used with 3 different meanings in one sentence. And you can look it up in the dictionary and see is a pronoun, it's an adverb, and it's a verb. So I have developed the technology so that the volition of what is being said must be accurate every single time, so that the subjective interpretation of what the individual's volition was cannot be second guessed, because of different ways that the sentence structures can be articulated in fraud. Because once you have a fraud, no matter which way you run it, frontwards or backwards, the fraud is still a fraud. So we have to write the sentence structures to be correct, so that frontwards and backwards, the sentence values have an order of operations, just like a math problem. So you have for the consequence, which means the knowledge of for the knowledge.
Okay, something is being moved around a lot while you're talking in the background, so it's interfering with you. I have to ask you, to not to touch your mic in any way, because it does come out over the loudspeaker.
Okay. When you write a sentence, it's for the cause. Cause is a condition of knowledge. Knowledge, when you look around, you see objects. Those objects are stored in your brain, cause, which is called of the consequence. The consequence is the stored information that you see. If you want to pick a specific topic out of all the things you know, you have to think. That's the verb. Is a singular, are is plural. When you move thinking, you're taking an object in your stored knowledge and now putting it into a possessive called a claim. The claim has to be defined as a plus or a minus, either a value or a damage. So therefore you have, with the contract of the correct sentence structured communication, parse, syntax, grammar of the laws, rules, regulations, and codes, with the avoidance of the perjury by the author. So what you're doing is the author is an authorization, authentic, and that's the person or the contract responsible for that sentence. And you sign your documents at the bottom because they have jurisdiction for everything in front of and above it. That's why the last word in the sentence has to be brought by an assignment of authority to articulate the value of that sentence and who's responsible for it.
Okay, but I have to stop you here because, again, this isn't a conversation not about the rules and regulations the way you've rewritten them, but actually about the philosophy behind whether or not indeed people on the earth are going to benefit from this. And I'd like you to give some examples of where they have benefited, because I know you did that in your videos. You did talk about various instances where, for example, I believe it was the Aborigines in Australia benefited. I believe you're helping the Hawaiians at this time, so that people can understand that the application of what you're talking about, as much as it may sound to the untrained ear like a twisting of the language, is actually helpful in terms of the courts, correct?
Well, when the courts were twisting the language, that's why white men speak with forked tongue. The American Indians came up with that. But the bastardization of the English language, English used to be spelled English, Endlish, and what it was, they changed it to England, England. They didn't want to be called the end of something, so they changed it to England. That was in 1750. Benjamin Franklin changed it in the United States grammar in 1775. The Solomon Islands people, when I went there in 2001, brought an argument to me about the genocide of 1929 by the English Admiralty when they were stealing the timber, diamonds, and gold from the island, and the natives rebelled because they were being raped of their island valuables. And so the English Admiralty shot 1,129 people in cold blood to put down the rebellion. The order given to that admiral by the King of England was syntaxed by me, and a lawsuit was brought against England for genocide without a contract. And England had to pay when the case was filed at the World Court last year. It finally came to its rotation, and England had to pay $880 million to the Solomon Island tribal people that are survivors. In 1995, in the United States, I sued the United States Department of Interior for false and misleading statements on all Indian treaties in the United States, and 195 Indian casinos were built. In 1995, there were like 92% unemployment for American Indians. By 1999, they were all working at the casinos, in making a nice living, buying new cars, new homes, culture centers, schools, and life has been better on the reservations for the people. In Australia, when I was there, I did a series of radio shows and met with the Aborigine people under the oppression, and I wrote a constitution for the Aborigines, a business international trade agreement.
I'm sorry. Wait, why are you calling the Aborigines Origines? Why are you calling?
Because AB means no origine. So therefore, it was a pretext to insult them and say they were no people, and they cooked that one up. So when I told the Aborigines that Aborigine means no origine, all 3,700 Aborigine tribes adapted the Aborigine statement because they were there before the white man came. They've been there for 5,000 years in Australia.
Okay. Fair enough.
When we went to New Zealand with the Maoris, the Maori has 2 million people, and the invading colonists are 4 million people. So the corporation was stealing from, after they came out of bankruptcy, stealing the Maoris' lands. And the way they did that was they would sell land to an unsuspecting buyer, then that they stole from the Maori tribesmen, then filed bankruptcy against that individual without his permission. And when you file bankruptcy against nothing, you give it value. Then they went ahead and they resold it out of bankruptcy and titled it into the crown. And that's how they were stealing the land in New Zealand and Australia. So the Maoris, when they learned about this, I was personally introduced to 400 of the 1,200 tribal chiefs over a series of 4 visits to Australia. And now they have a new constitution, the same one that's written for the United Nations. And they have the ability to understand how their grammar was used since 1820 to steal their land and invade their country, to take back what was theirs originally through false and misleading statements. And
okay.
it wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't true. it was the post office. The post office invaded New Zealand. The post office invaded Australia and the Solomon Islands and the Hawaiian Islands, because the post office controls the military on the planet. And this goes all the way back to 1800. So the indigenous, the original people of all these lands around the planet, when they were invaded by a stronger force who did not have a contract, they used false and misleading information to steal the lands away from the original people that were living there and had settled those lands as the population of this planet expanded. But they never had the correct parse syntax grammar to write a treaty, trust, or contract to steal those lands, even though the rules and regulations of grammar have been on the table all these years. They went ahead and they did not educate the people how to use the correct grammar so that they could protect themselves in a correct contract.
Okay, but
when I broke the math interface, that all changed.
I understand. Okay, so but at this time, first of all, I understand from some people that you are not qualified as a lawyer, or that you don't have, I don't know, that they don't recognize you.
I am not a lawyer, and I'm not an attorney.
Okay.
I am a federal judge.
Okay.
For the correct parse syntax grammar.
Okay.
This is a different type of a title than what you are used to. I do not I am not a district judge. I am not a state judge. Federal deals with the directorship of grammar and rules and regulations. What is a federal stamp? What is federal money? What is federal rules and regulations? These are the root, the foundation by which this planet functions, so it doesn't go ahead and go to war. You've got to go back to the basics, and the basics are mathematic operations and grammar operations. So as a federal judge, I was elected to this position when the Hawaiian Kapunas in 1997 elected me King of Hawaii. I had one responsibility: to do parse, syntax, grammar, contracts, not to interfere with customs, religions, or their politics, but to make sure the contracts were correct. And all kings throughout the history of this planet and presidents are all judges. So
okay.
I filed my federal judge papers to do one thing: only deal with parse, syntax, grammar, to make sure the contracts are correct. Then I take those contracts when they're written correctly, and we publish those. If there's a crime that takes place, I identify the crime, I write a correct parse, syntax, grammar lawsuit, and I give it to the Attorney General, to the FBI, to the Comptroller of the Currency, Comptroller of Financial Responsibility,
okay,
to the United States Supreme Court, or to the Justice Department to do their job and stop criminal activities. I don't go out and arrest people. I don't go out and hurt people. I only show the government the correct parse, syntax, grammar, and the forensic evidence of a crime that took place under false and misleading statements. It's their responsibility then to stop and correct it by their own laws, rules, and regulations.
Okay. I have people that are asking in the chat if you will provide case numbers. Are you able to provide case numbers for the cases that you talk about?
When we file cases, those are published on the internet. Now, and you can go in there and see every lawsuit I filed going all the way back to 1980. My case numbers, when we file a quantum lawsuit, give you an example. If I filed one tomorrow, it would be CB12, it would be CB space 12, space 0123. And that would be in federal court. The case number that you will see show up will be a 3 full colon lowercase cv 0123. They changed the case number. I file in the document contract federal postal vessel federal court venue. They will come back and change the name to United States District Court. United means no citizen, condition of state. District, DIS, is demon god of the underworld, for TRICT, trickery, in a closed area called court. Then they changed the person's name from a punctuated full colon David Wynn full colon Miller to David Wynn Miller in all uppercase caps, which is a nom de guerre dead person. Then write the entire document in adverb verb and dismiss the case in adverb verb. Those are not my cases, not my venue, not my case number, and I'm not going to participate with a fraudulent organization.
Okay.
When my cases go in federal court, they are immediately taken and put in the judge's vault. They are not left in a file cabinet where somebody can pick them up and copy them.
Okay. So what about the people that are claiming that they tried to use your procedures, and I guess they didn't do it right, or something went wrong, and the court?
Yes, when I look at the lawsuits that these people are copying, they're using redemption policies, strongman, UCC, which is Uniform Commercial Codes, acceptance for value, and they write it in adverb verb, and then they're talking about the fraudulent conveyance of grammar, but they're writing in the fraudulent conveyance of grammar. So, okay. And because they're using my name, they immediately say, well, we're going to blame David for this, but these are not my cases. I sign, and I am a claimant on every case I write, and I know how to write lawsuits.
I believe it. Well, okay. So what about the idea that I'm just throwing this out? I know you're trying to you're giving classes, right? Seminars to people so they can learn.
I do radio shows and Skype presentations, and
right.
I do seminars all over the United States, all over the South Pacific, Europe.
But because this seems fairly involved, and I know other people that try to sort of learn these things on the fly and then go out and use them, sometimes fail miserably. What about the idea of hiring an attorney that was trained by you to do this? In other words, somebody who has to be licensed.
Okay, attorneys, lawyers, and judges swear an oath that no law or fact shall be tried in court. No is an adverb, modifies the negative verb law and the negative verb fact. Shall is a pronoun in future time connected to the adverb be, which modifies the verb tried in past time. In is an adverb connecting the verb tried and now modifying the dangling participle verb court. Court is a verb, tried is a verb, law is a verb, and fact is a verb, and they're all negative. Now you have a court of fiction. Okay. Where the modification grammar is the rule of the court. So therefore, no attorney, no lawyer, and no judge can touch the correct parse syntax grammar because it vacates their position and they're all to only tell a lie.
Well, so am I to understand that you're the only person who can go into court and win these kinds of cases?
No, anybody that takes time to study and do their homework can do this. We have 5 federal judges that are trained by me and are capable to go in the court and do the same thing I am. As a claimant on a case, to articulate what the fraud and misleading statements are on these lawsuits.
Okay. You spent 3 days with Rockefeller. I mean, with Rothschild, right? I mean, maybe you also spent
1999, 14 years ago. Yes.
Okay. And at that time, were you just starting out?
No, that was already in my 19th year of doing of law studies. In
Okay.
1988, when we published the mathematical interface on grammar, and I started doing seminars in 1995. By 1999, information was finally, I got to be big enough and knowledgeable enough that Rothschild wanted to meet me. So I flew over to Belfast and we had a meeting. And I showed him how using correct grammar for international trade and international bank documents would improve his position worldwide as well as secure. Now, it requires 23 different rules in maritime law to move international money between one country and another. And the lawyers that were hired and entrusted to do this back in the 90s were only using 7 or 8 of these 23 laws. When he realized that his lawyers that he was entrusting, because of their high position, were not doing their job, he fired several of them and made them learn how to use the correct maritime codes and laws and rules and regulations so that the International Monetary Fund would not fall subject or victim to a fraudulent conveyance of grammar problem.
Okay. So you taught a man who's basically considered to be one of the people, the arch enemies of the people, if you will, how to make more money and be more successful.
First off, people have food for 8 billion people. You have energy. You've got banking. You've got the planet has maintained a certain level of order that has been very well improved since this technology has come out, because it's holding people who would use false and misleading statements at bay so they don't run amok. And so the correct parse syntax grammar is having a global effect in all languages, in all countries worldwide, to bring this planet into a correctness.
Okay.
Because now it's a math problem. And you can't cheat a math problem. No more than you can cheat grammar anymore because of how widely publicized this is. My website is written in 150 different languages, and your Google language translator can translate my website into your language of choice, so that there is no subjective interpretation, misunderstanding between English and whatever language you choose.
I understand.
If an English word does not appear in your language, the English word will remain in place.
Okay.
That's all.
You claim to be I believe, a 92nd degree Mason. Why do you claim to be a 92nd degree Mason?
The Manly Hall's the teachings of all Masons throughout history.
Okay, and there's a lot of sort of moving around on your end again, so I'm not sure what it is.
I readjusted myself.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
All right. There were Manly Hall in 1968 took all of the teachings of Masonry that were accumulated throughout history, brought over on the Mayflower, and he wrote a book dealing with all the different religions, mathematics, number codes, tarot, the zodiac signs, astrology, the Masonic codes, the Buddhist codes, the Hindus, the Muslims, samurai, and everything.
Right.
Put it all in one big giant book, 2 feet tall, a foot wide, and 2 inches thick. Except he wrote the whole thing in adverb, verb, adverb, adjective, pronoun, adverb, verb. And he wrote it in past time, in future time, and with words that meant no contract. I went ahead and went into the book, and I spent 10 years at it, and I fixed the grammar into now time, putting in the missing words in the correct order of operation so that the sentence structure can be read frontwards and backwards with mathematical certification. And because I have the only copy of that, and the Masons, I've advertised this for 15 years all around the world, know this. It's not a secret. And when Master Masons bring their books and want me to syntax them and translate what they have, whether dogma or legenda or the teachings of the degrees 1 through 34, I go ahead and I will syntax the sentences on a whiteboard. I will show them what it says. I will diagram the sentence to show how many things are wrong. And then I will put in the now time words in the correct order and rewrite the sentence so it reads frontwards and backwards so they can see what the truth is.
Okay, but how does that help really to tell the truth? I mean,
the individual, once they see a word used, they can take a book of synonyms and replace that word with any number of the synonyms in that sentence. So sentences have many different definitions. Just like the Lord's Prayer I syntaxed and I published on my website and in my books. People don't like, if they didn't like what it said, they could replace any word with a synonym in a positive manner and then go ahead and rewrite it again. And they can do it 10,000 different ways, and it always says the same thing, frontwards and backwards. This technology has proven itself because it's a math problem. And because math problems, if you do it wrong, you write it backwards to see where the error was, and then you can correct it. So as long as we can correct the grammar, we can write contracts, constitutions, trade agreements, banking, mortgages, and do these things with a level of accuracy of 100%, so that there is no subjective interpretation or misinformation given to the individual.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure how that applies to, say, Manly Palmer Hall's work, because he wasn't writing contracts, right? He was
taking information that was written down and putting it into a book. Manly Hall was killed. His book, his printing shop was burnt to the ground.
Yes.
195 books were destroyed. There were only 5 books that were mailed out to other people that got away.
Okay.
I own those 5 books.
Okay, well, I would say that Jordan, I don't know if you know who Jordan Maxwell is, but he probably owns some of the books as well.
I highly doubt that because there's only 5 books in existence.
Okay.
And if he can't translate, if he doesn't know syntax and can't translate, it isn't going to do him much good.
Do you understand what symbolism is?
Yes.
Okay. How does your work relate to symbolism? Because the occult, which was what Manly Palmer Hall was really talking about, is all about symbols. In other words, they're not words necessarily, but they're words used.
Just like the Aborigines and the Maoris and other languages use paintings, drawings to express their treaties between tribes. And it wasn't until the English language and the Latin and the Arabic languages were created, the Chinese language, the Japanese language, where you had words, symbols that represented specific words, and an alphabet. The first language was Gothic, and the newest language is English, the English alphabet. The English alphabet, because I was able to certify it into a mathematical procedure, now trumps all the rest of those. When you have a symbol, you have subjective interpretation because it's art. Art is a synonym of imagination and illusion. Therefore, you have subjective interpretation as to what it means.
Well, actually, I wouldn't necessarily say that's a definition for art. I would say art is actually a truthful depiction of reality.
Truth is an opinion. Correctness is mathematics. Everybody believes in God, but they have a different definition for what the truth of God is, times 8 billion subjective interpretations. So when people want the truth, they only want somebody else's opinion. And if you look up the words in the dictionary, you're going to see it's an opinion.
Well, why are you so sort of wedded to the dictionary?
Well, the dictionary, like take Daniel Webster's dictionary. Daniel Webster said the bastardization of the English language was the greatest crime he could commit against the human beings, but he had to make a living. So he was hired to bastardize definitions.
I would say that's an opinion.
Well, I can take any word in 2 million words and show you the definition is written in adverb, verb, or pronouns, or adverb, adjective, pronouns.
I mean, there's a lack of creativity that I find rather disturbing about this whole process that you're talking about. And in a certain sense, what we're really talking about is you're actually pretending on a certain level that there is something called reality as distinct from what we would call alternate realities, when in fact they're all illusion. In fact, this is an illusion. Life here on
No,
earth is an illusion.
the word real, R-E means no and A-L means contract. So reality is a no contract.
Well, maybe by definition that you're using, but what I'm saying here is that
It's
you
called,
spend a lot of time making a distinction between what is real and what is not. In other words, what you call well, you call fiction and truth, or nonfiction, I suppose.
well, non-fiction, non is a negative, and any negative times any condition equals a negative. So therefore, you have a fact, and fiction is no fiction. A fiction is an illusion. A fraud is an illusion. No fiction is an illusion. Why can't you just go with the word fact and not use the word no fiction or non-fiction? It's still
I
a
would say,
no.
because I would say
Anytime
fact. The
we don't
idea of a
found
fact is
no,
a fact is an illusion as well. A fact is
see,
often an opinion. In fact, it's more often than not, it's a complete lie. It's only one level of reality, and in fact, there is no such thing as a fact any more than there is a truth. By going by your definition, in other words, you're very locked into what one would call the pragmatic world, and I appreciate that your objective is for people to understand each other very well, but it also tends to be sort of literal and very sort of superficial on its levels.
no,
Language, the beauty of
see,
language is in the number of interpretations that you can get from any one phrase. This is the
that luxury
nuance
is
and the
not allowed in
subtleties.
law.
Well, it may not be allowed in law, but in art, and I would consider art to be a more
Not talking
accurate
about art.
depiction. For
We're talking
example,
about being
if
correct
we were to take,
in a courtroom. We're talking about being correct when your
yes,
life is hanging on the words that are being said. If you're going to be destroyed, if you're going to go get the death penalty or go to prison or lose your children, and somebody's out there making an opinion, an adverb verb, and you know it's wrong. So I'm holding people accountable
I
before
appreciate
one
that.
human being damages another human being with grammar, that I will prosecute that individual for fraud.
Okay, all I'm suggesting is perhaps you're taking this a little too far, because there is a limit to the positive applicability of what you're saying. It may work in a courtroom, in other words, but in everyday life, it may be extremely limited. Uh, that's just my opinion, and I'm
I
throwing that
only
out.
look at the courtroom. A courtroom is a piece of paper. It's not a building.
Okay.
Everybody works. building, but only people with paper and a contract written on that paper is what is advertised of what's going to be talked about. The word United States means a no citizen condition of state. No citizen means when you put your name on paper, you're a corporate instrument that you have offered an idea to another human being that is accepting the words on there, and the two of you are going to make a corporation, and you're either going to have a contract to perform or you're going to have a disagreement to come to a conclusion.
Okay,
So
why don't you rewrite? Why don't you rewrite, for example, the Constitution, and why don't you explain to Obama how he probably is not really the president of the United States based on your interpretation of the law?
He isn't. When he says, I swear, I is an adverb making swear a verb. Swear means to do evil on others. Why would somebody say that? Every courtroom in America tells you to walk in and get on the witness stand and say, I swear. When I get on the witness stand, I say, for this witness's knowledge of the facts is with the claim of the correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar, with the avoidance of the perjury by the claimant or by the witness, and that's accepted by the judge. And I conduct myself in a correct manner, answering correct sentences.
I appreciate that, but you're not actually answering my question. I'm suggesting that if you have access to people such as Rothschild with this rather brilliant interpretation of the law, or of a writing of the law, then why don't you go to apply it to the United States government and change the government?
On the 21st of December 2012, we went and found the 1775 Benjamin Franklin, first Postmaster General of the United States of America and Canada, 14 years before the United States of America was created and the district courts were created, where it was the original federal postal court. And we ordered the original 1775 federal postal court open under Title 28, Section 636, with the correct parse, syntax, grammar, and sentence structure, with Russell Gould and myself's oath of office and orders to open that court up. And everyone in the United States, 6 hours later, when Obama was in Hawaii and he got word that we had ordered the court open, was on a plane back to Washington.
Okay, but what happened since then?
What's that?
So what happened since then?
Well, since then, Obama got found guilty yesterday. The United States Supreme Court filed indictments against him.
Okay, were they written in parse, syntax, grammar?
I haven't seen that yet. The only thing I saw was on the internet that a indictment was filed.
Yes.
Against him.
That's correct. I also put that on my blog. I've got...
IND means no contract. So they're bringing a no contract indictment against a pre-simulation denture who swore an oath in adverb verb, and the Congress, the Senate, the legislature, and the Supreme Court all issued orders in adverb verb, which, when their syntax, is a violation of Title 15, Section 1692E, and is void on its face. So how does one liar and one void grammar prosecute another liar and another void grammar?
Well, it's a good question. It's a really good question.
For crying out loud.
Okay, well, what do you suggest is the remedy?
I wrote a new constitution for the United Nations 3 years ago, and it's been posted on the internet. And all the countries in the world have endorsed it. Because when you compare the correct parse, syntax, grammar to the fictitious conveyance of grammar, there's no contest there. So if the world has to change gears and learn how to be correct in communication skills and writing of contracts, constitutions. The books have to change, the teachers have to change in how they teach our students, because as long as students are not taught to use correct grammar, they will never possess the power to write a correct contract, treaty, trust, or constitution for their own life and the style of their life, or business, or banking, or
Okay.
trade.
I appreciate that. But the trouble is probably that your system can be used as with by people in power to enslave people just as well as the system that they've been using. I would suggest.
Slavery is against all languages on planet Earth. The idea of slavery has been ruled on by the United Nations that no country can create a law to enslave its people.
Okay, well, I mean, are you aware of something called the New World Order?
Yeah, I've been aware of that for a long, long time.
Okay, and do you feel that you're
And the New
fighting
World
for
Order
it or
was
against
established
it?
2nd October 1871.
I'm
And
sorry.
it was kicked off in Switzerland in the Hawaiian Islands.
Okay,
It
are
was
you
a
fighting for
it
or
was
against this?
it was a brainchild of the Rothschild family in the Vatican and the
Yes.
central banks. I know where it comes from. I know how it works, and I know Masons cooked it up with the Illuminatis
Okay,
and
so
all that
why do you
nonsense.
call
And
yourself a
to do it,
92nd degree Mason? And are you in favor of the New World Order? Or are you working against it?
I'm in favor of having a world with correct grammar. And if you want to call correct grammar where the people of this planet know what the rules and regulations and codes are to live a normal life, then yes, if that's the New World Order of correctness, then I'm all for it. But as long as this world in all languages are babbling and talking in fiction, you're not going to have any peace. People are going to keep fighting with each other because they can keep charging each other with perjury.
Okay,
Everyone
but
on the
the
knows what
wars that
perjury.
are being orchestrated by between countries, and I can tell by the conversations I've had with you that you've been in touch with what I would consider to be whistleblowers, what you might call are just people that have been giving you some background source information, and you must know that there is a war for survival on planet Earth between various aspects of humanity, and that the New World Order is not the answer. You're
Would
aware of that,
you,
correct?
when we get off, when we get off this broadcast, I'm going to send you an email that's 130 pages long,
Okay.
and it'll answer a lot of questions. All right.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's great. For the purposes of the people listening, though, and these are questions they also have. What I wanted to do is to get you to talk a little bit more about, because you had a very unique sort of life death experience, and perhaps we can bring that up now, and we can also talk about how you sort of had, I guess you might say, ET interaction to where you feel that you're not aging at this time, et cetera, et cetera. And this must have given you a certain insight into what's going on planet Earth beyond parse, syntax, grammar. And I appreciate where this system can possibly be used to free people, but it can also be used to enslave them, I would suggest. And I just want to know if we can step outside that model for a moment and ask you if your own exposure to various off-planet races has given you insight into this situation that you might want to share.
Well, there's no off-planet events taking place here. My website is the only one like it on the internet. There's no plagiarizing or competition for it. All the ideas, the programs that are up there are original. They were with 8,000 hours of research put together to publish that. And when we looked at the world of fiction, removed all the things that couldn't be in the future, in the past, and brought it to now time, dropped it into the mathematical procedure for writing sentences. We then put together that website. Now, as well as videos and lectures that have and books that I've written. So things that have happened. I have a unique body chemistry. It allows me to excel in the fields of translating grammar into correct grammar. I can read fiction and translate it instantly into quantum sentences. Having read 38 different types of dictionaries, cover to cover, Encyclopedia Britannica and World Book, and plus all the research on tens of thousands of companies and topics. As a day trader, I've acquired a great database of information. I had 17 years of full-time college and spent all my free time in law libraries for 20 years. And then when I found out it was all a lie, I had to go back and rewrite it. So I knew what the wrong was, I knew what the right was, so I have perspective.
Okay.
That's why I'm adamant about the incorrect.
Okay.
And yes, there are spelling errors in my website, and there's typos, and we've had a couple computer glitches where somebody got in there, or the computer, due to a power surge, got in there, and it would put like question marks and slash marks and parentheses between words in random locations for, I don't know how, but with 400 pages to go through, it takes a long time to go in there and find out where these mistakes are.
Okay, but I'm not really interested in spelling errors on your website. What I am interested in is, for example, what about the craft that's hidden in Greenland that we talked about on my radio show?
I don't think it's hidden. It's sticking out of the ice about 3,000 feet. It isn't like that satellite can look at it anytime they want. It's just that the internet, the people that control the internet, have prevented those pictures from being currently broadcasted. The last picture that was posted was 2005. Those are still up on the internet. Last time I checked, under something strange in Greenland and strange object in Greenland. But
okay.
We all know that the Greenland ice cap has melted back considerably, where it used to be completely covered all the way down to the ocean. There's hundreds of miles of open land now surrounding the Greenland island. But because of this dampening field where no electrons can flow from the spacecraft, it has an active dampening field that's 200 miles wide. So the entire southern half of the Greenland has no electricity.
Okay, and when you say it's active, that must mean that someone's activating it, correct?
Well, it's been up there 50,000 years, and it still has a powerful field. It's probably robotic, but the United States Air Force has been in there since 1947.
Okay.
You do the math,
Okay, well, yes, absolutely. But since you know this information, what else can you tell us about it? In other words, have you been read in?
I used to have a complete history of the craft from 1947 to 2010 posted on my website. And they came in and they took it down off my website because they didn't want people to know. So
okay, I'm going to have to ask you to turn your video off again because your audio is breaking up again, so it's hard to understand you.
Okay.
It gets better. Can you tell us? So they took it at who's they? Who took it down? Do you know?
The people that control the internet.
And do you know who they are?
No.
Have you tried to find out? I mean, couldn't you prosecute them using Parsi syntax grammar?
I'm interested in finding out. Somebody If somebody wants me to know who's running the internet, they will send me an email.
What was that supposed to mean? In other words, if people don't ask for your help, you don't go and try to discover something where a place where you could help.
I'm doing the creative research, and and when problems arise for specific issues, right now it's for foreclosures and child support or family support issues. Takes up most of my time with assisting people in trying to keep them in their homes, keep the families together. And when I
Yes,
travel
but you can
abroad,
appreciate. I mean,
international
no,
organizations,
really, David. I mean, I'm asking you, come on, as one person to another, you're clearly read in on what's really going on the planet. Just because you help individuals is not going to change the law that is going to screw a lot of individuals who never get your help. So what I would suggest is rather than helping
so
individuals, you
let
go
me,
attack
okay,
the actual law and the courts and the governments that are creating these laws to begin with.
I'll tell you what, when you get the email after we get off this broadcast and you find out that there's 1,000 sources and you see the signatures of 1,000 sources, it's going to take you a while to read through it. You're going to come away with how is one person going to go after 1,000 different sources and yet continue doing what I do to help people. You know, do radio shows, answer 300 emails a day, work on lawsuits,
I know it's hard for
criminal.
you to believe, David, but I do the same thing, okay? And I would
All
just
right,
suggest
find out.
all I'm doing here is I'm saying, are you basically telling me that you've been told that you have a certain arena in which you can operate and that if you try to go outside that arena, they'll shut you down?
No, I do my job because I know what my job is, and I specialize in my field. There's other people that specialize in their fields. I don't tell a mechanic how to fix an engine or how to tell a surgeon to fix your brain or tell a dentist how to do his teeth. Everybody has their specialties. And there's 5,000 occupations out there. Mine
Uh-huh.
just happens to be grammar. So
Right.
I'm
I'm
going to
just
say in
suggesting that the
my field,
people and the law, the law is written by governments. The law is written by people that take positions of power and then take advantage of them and write laws as they see fit. Obama's been passing all kinds of laws. Most of them are probably completely illegal, like the Patriot Act. And this is your job, right? That's a parameter of your job is determining
I
whether the
would
Patriot
say,
Act is
okay,
illegal.
when somebody does something that's illegal like that and I syntax it, I will send it to the Justice Department. And if they don't want to stop and correct it, and they want to go ahead and live by that lie,
Yes.
where is my military? There isn't one. Okay? So the
Okay.
rules of nature are you can keep what you can hold. That's the rules of nature, whether you like it or not. That's the way it is. You know, King Hussein said to you can't come over here. I'm a sovereign country. I'm a king. Yeah, well, few days later, he was sitting in jail and his whole infrastructure was blown to hell and back. So you can keep what you can hold. And, you know, this world may grumble and throw stones at each other, but if ET shows up with spacecrafts that are 300 miles long and 55 miles wide and 2 miles high, and you got 50 of them surrounding this planet, and they've got the ability to shut down the electrons on this planet. Oh, actually, you only need 4 of these spacecrafts. What are you going to do?
Okay.
Huh? You can
Tell me
pick
about HARP.
HARP is a frequency. HARP does 2 things. It does weather. Now there's a laser high amplification radiation pulse, 8,000 miles above the Pacific Ocean that controls the weather, outside of the prying eyes of the world, and it uses a laser beam to control the weather. This was fired up in '89 and was shot down in I think around 2004. Anyways, they turn it on every now and then, but they don't use it on a regular basis. Then there's the second one where there's 12 HARP units in the northern hemisphere. They use these HARP units for beta wave and alpha wave, and they piss a lot of people off because of it. So that's about all I can say about that. You know, the government is going to play with their toys,
I see.
and then they're going to have all your people that are doing research, people that work there, probably be the ones that bring out the information in little bits and pieces. Because with all the people watching on planet Earth, there's always somebody talking. Everybody's got a cell phone with a camera on it. It isn't an issue of you smuggling in anything anymore, because everybody's watching. It's either by satellite or by your own cell phones.
Okay, so you're aware of what's called Project Leonid?
Well, that's a new one. Want to enlighten me on that one?
Sure. Anthony Sanchez, who's actually listening, I see him in the chat, has written a book, or he's about to publish it, but he's had various whistleblowers release information from Lockheed in about a network of nanosatellites they've been building. It's called Project Leonid. They're operated by have you seen the Terminator movies?
Yeah.
Okay, well, those, contrary to where you think that reality, fact and fiction can't meet, they do meet in movies all the time. And the Terminator movies are actually real. So there is such a thing as Mother, what is called Skynet.
Yeah, they have there's 12,000 drones in Iraq that patrol the skies. In North Dakota, just because of the $500 billion oil find, moving 40 oil rigs and putting out the hiring for 20,000 new people to enter the state, have put up, and because you got SAC up there also, Strategic Air Command, they've completely got skies full of unmanned drones to police the skies over North Dakota now.
Right.
Yeah, they're moving in. Yeah, they're putting in more and more of these little toys.
Okay. Well,
every corner in my city's got a camera on it. When I was in Australia, the expressways all have zero tolerance. Every 1,000 feet is a camera with a motion sensor, a speed detector on it. And if you go 1 mile over the speed limit, takes a picture, and sends you a ticket.
Yeah, it's insane. Drives me crazy.
Watch you. I say.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, this could get more and more control. And if you turn off the electricity, it's going to be a mess.
Okay, but if you turn off the electricity, they also might have less power over you.
If ET were to shut down the electricity, you wouldn't be able to run the cooling pumps on all nuclear reactors on planet Earth, and they would all go China syndrome at the same time. You do the math on that one.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. Do you feel
short because it won't exist?
Sorry?
Don't worry about going to a grocery store because your car won't have electricity, the pumps won't pump, the water won't flow. Even all of the whole entire United States system is based on electronics. And if they shut down the electron due to an Earth-wide dampening field, they just made a movie like that came out, I think it was in November, where they turned off all the electricity and put people back to 1880 on the entire planet.
Yeah, I think it was called Revolution, if I recall.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
Are you a prepper? Are you prepping for the eventuality that this might happen?
No, I
Okay.
just live my life on a normal day.
Okay. Uh, are you in touch with what you would call any ETs or off-planet intelligences, or even
No,
ETs walking around
no,
here?
nothing like that.
Not to your knowledge.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. I'm just asking you. These are perfectly valid questions based on your background, you know.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
Uh,
I had an encounter when I was 8,
okay.
but it's been pretty quiet. But
Since
I can
then,
tell you this: I have had 200 events, over 200 events in my life since I was 8 years old. That within less than a half a second, I would have died if I had stepped 1 foot further
okay.
or 1 foot backwards or drove my car 10 feet faster at highway speeds
I hear you.
and and always being in the right place at the wrong time and avoiding it. So when it happens to you that many times, you kind of get thinking. Even when I wasn't paying attention, my car would stop. My boat would make a turn just before hitting a brick wall.
Yes.
Uh, so
So you're
you know,
you're you're
picking
highly
up a
protected.
highly monitored. I guess you could say yes, I'm highly monitored. So I got to be a really good guy and pay attention all the time and do the right thing for the right reason all the time.
Well, no, I would say you're also protected. Let me ask you this. You're not, I'm getting the impression that you're not actually a legitimate, what they would call a traditional Mason. You didn't go up through the ranks. Am I wrong?
I was raised at the age of when I was 12. I joined DMLA. I was in DMLA till I was 21. My father was a 33-degree Mason, and then he joined the Shriners and became a 34-degree Mason. And I've been in Masonry since I was 12 years old.
Okay, well, did you consider your father a Satanist?
No, he was a very good man. Ran a
Okay.
soda water company. He was very well liked by all the people in Milwaukee, and we had 720 accounts that loved our soda water. And we were the third largest soda water company in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee.
All right. Have you heard of Bohemian Grove?
I heard the name. I haven't done any research on it.
Okay. All right. Have you heard of an installation that was discovered in the Romanian mountains? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Uh, Not particularly.
Okay.
Enlighten me. Maybe I've looked at things on the internet, but I haven't researched it.
Well, there's a
I
Romanian journalist called Radu Cinemar who wrote a book in Romanian all about this particular installation that was under the, I guess it was under what was called, I think they called themselves Foundation X. It was basically a black project, part of the Romanian government. It was run by a guy whose name, at least in the book, is Caesar, and he was the director of the place of a place that then went and discovered this installation that was in the Romanian mountains in the vicinity of what's called the Romanian Sphinx. There's been a book written about it and some investigation done. The American government went over there and helped them build tunnels into so they could get at the installation. And what they discovered were these very, very high tables that were higher than human height. So it means that the beings who built them were taller than humans, okay? And that if you, once you were able to get up to the tabletop, you could actually activate what became sort of a library of holograms. It's said to be built
I
by a
can't comment.
race.
I can't comment on that. I have done no research on that.
Have you ever heard of
I do
it?
know. No,
You
I
never heard
do
of it?
know that there is a facility under the Denver International Airport that's quite large,
Okay.
connected to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and there's a tunnel that runs from Albuquerque all the way up to Denver.
True. So you know about what are called maglev trains.
Well, these are about 60 feet diameter, these tunnels, so I guess the multi-level transportation.
Okay. Sorry, my dog. Okay, Cody, no. Have you heard of the Dulce base?
No, no, that one.
Never heard of that. Okay. Have you heard of ET abductions?
Oh, that's type in ET on the or UFO on your computer search bar, and you can spend thousands of hours just looking at videos from all over the planet for the last 50 years.
Okay, you've heard of it then.
Well, of course.
Okay, I'm simply asking you.
I don't
All right, what I'm
have,
going to do at
I
this
don't have
point,
time to go searching every little detail of those kind of performances out there.
right?
I've
Well,
got my special to take care of.
yeah, can you appreciate that I have Camelot videos where I interview people with above top secret clearances that are talking about what is really going on with our military and underground bases, such as Dulce, et cetera, et cetera. So you don't really have to spend a lot of time searching the internet. You can just go to Camelot and get this information if you're interested. It's just that if you want to be Neo, I just would encourage you to possibly take into account some of these other things because they really do impact and are likely to impact our life in a big way in the future. Have you heard of Echelon?
No,
Okay, that's basically a surveillance network, and they're building a huge facility and run by the NSA in Utah. You might have heard of that.
no, haven't.
Okay,
I don't go and research all these different names of projects out there. I've
okay,
got enough work to do with syntax in
I hear
developing
you.
this to get contracts and international trade and banking online. Make
Uh,
sure that the world money supply stays fluent in the
Okay, well
correct
let's
correct
talk
grammar.
about that. Let's talk about the money supply. What does your do you feel that this Parsi syntax grammar is going to affect, for example, the financial system and the fact of whether the dollar is the reserve currency or the Chinese yen becomes or yuan becomes the reserve currency? Do you think that your system of contracts is going to affect the financial system in any way?
I think it's going to improve the system to make sure it stays functioning on a wholesome basis. Because if your contract, when you're dealing with banking, you're dealing with numbers, and numbers have to balance. The contracts that move numbers around have to be correct, otherwise you get sued for mail fraud. So yes, I'm working on the contracts to make sure that international trade agreements and international banking has a lucrative, correct Parse syntax grammar, bank treaty, postal treaty, transportation treaty, constitution, and trade treaties between these different countries.
Okay, what
So
if
there is a substantive interpretation of what the law says.
let me give you an example. What if China has bought up land in the United States using verb adverb and not written the contracts under the way that you describe it? Would you be able to win that land back by going to court or however you do it?
Those 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 three contracts that could be broken and set to be corrected.
Okay,
Just just
so
like a false mortgage, where a
yes.
bank doesn't sign a mortgage contract and takes somebody's house when they don't even have a contract to take that house. They're being prosecuted by the comptroller of the currency and the attorney generals and the Securities and Exchange Commission for false misleading statements on their contracts. They're using my technology to break these, to collect on these fraudulent documents.
Okay, but you know about the mortgage scandal. I mean, isn't there a way that you could actually change it so that it would be wider than just one person at a time? If you could change the laws that actually created the mortgage scandal?
We are supplying the contracts to the government, and the government's responsible to adapt these. That's why we're writing these contracts. I am supplying the Justice Department with the necessary contracts with the correct parse, syntax, grammar. If they choose not to implement it in a piecemeal effort and they want to do it all at once, then they'll pass a law where they fix everything at once so that there isn't a tremendous amount of fear and fighting and chaos. One of my responsibilities is to be responsible for the technology to keep order and make sure that there's a smooth transition so no one gets hurt. I've been doing that for 33 years.
Okay. Now, what I want to do, I know we've been keeping you for a long time. This has actually been going for about an hour and a half. So I want to turn this over to the people to ask whatever questions they have. So again, I would like anyone who would like to ask a question, please ask it in all caps. And please make it clear. Don't, I've got somebody on the chat who keeps putting prove it to me in there 1,000 times. I believe you have information on your website that's quite substantial. Is there other places people can go to, verify your claims?
Well, you can read a styles manual to see how grammar actually works. You can read my website to see how it works.
Okay, but specifically your claims about the things that you've done.
I don't have to. People want to. I'm not going to go and answer one-on-one questions. Prove it. When I'm busy fixing entire documents simultaneously for everyone.
Okay.
These people are just busybodies that are too lazy to go out and do the work or even read the website or watch the videos in the first place. After they watch the videos and read the website, call me up if you've got something to say. Well, I already set it up there, and I'll answer your questions.
Well,
that's why we're with this radio show.
Let me ask you a question. Have you seen Zero Dark 30, the film?
No. It takes 10 years to find somebody, and 18 guys that go out and supposedly kill the guy are all killed 3 days later in a helicopter crash.
That's right.
That's awful convenient, don't you think?
Okay, so you know that film is a lie.
Yes.
Okay, but you didn't go see it, right?
No.
Okay, that's fine. I'm actually, very heartened to hear you say that it's a lie. But my question is actually something else. My question is, one of the things that happens in that film is they tend to allude to the fact that torturing somebody can get the truth, or the so-called truth, out of them, when in fact that's been proven false. So I wonder if it's possible for you to go out and deal with the laws that deal with torture, so that the United States and other countries who are torturing people right now in prisons and outside of prisons will have to stop what they're doing. Have you thought about that?
The people who do these kind of things, you've got to be you've got to have a certain messed up head in the first place to torture another human being.
Right, but militaries are advocating this, and they basically make this possible.
But all these people, they grew up in the world of violence. They grew up watching violent cartoons and playing these violent video games.
Okay, but I'm talking about laws that allow for torture within the system. In other words, that's your job, right? To deal with the law. Can't you outlaw torture? Can't you write a law that would then make torture, illegal?
Well, I'm not the one. I'm not the Congress, the Senate, or the legislature.
Well, I bet you have some connections there.
If you showed me a law that was written that would allow one human being to do that to
It's
another.
called the Patriot Act.
Yeah, I've seen that. Well, the Patriot Act is written in adverb verb and doesn't say anything. So it's just making this stuff up because they got a second grade reading level.
Okay, but if I get thrown in jail under the Patriot Act, I guess I'm going to have to come find you, right?
That would probably be a very good thing to do. I could syntax the lawsuit and file a counter lawsuit to make that one go away.
Okay, and if the case went to the Supreme Court, then it would work for all people. It would
Just
apply
as
for
the
all
court
people,
in the
wouldn't
United
it?
States, it's no more than another court, just like going for a parking ticket. The Supreme Court since 1789 has never issued an order or a command. They only issue opinions under certiorari. And an opinion is a word that means no connecting context written in adverb verb, which says nothing. So if you're going to go ahead and have a body of individuals write nothing, with nothing, about nothing, you're going to wind up with nothing. So what do? You take all of our school teachers and you tell them to teach all the students in America not how to read and write or use science, sentence structure, correct sentence structure. Don't teach them how to sentence diagram. Just make it up as you go along. So when you graduate, you couldn't write a correct contract or defend yourself in any way, shape, or form. If your life depended on it, your life does depend on it, so you wind up in prison because you're illiterate. So if you've got lawmakers writing fiction and judges enforcing fiction and lawyers and attorneys just lying about fiction, what do you got? You can't win a lie. You can't fight a lie with a lie. You got nothing. You just got chaos. And as long as you keep people fighting and they're willing to pay to fight at $300 an hour, the lawyers and the judges and the attorneys are going to get rich. And we, the people, are just going to keep getting milked because they don't take time to use the correct parsing, syntax, grammar, and become a victim of their own ignorance.
Okay, do you ever write articles for...
8 billion people on this planet are victims, and that's why I have such a large body of people reading the website to figure out why they don't know how to read and write or don't know how to write a contract, even though they got a college degree.
Okay, do you ever write articles for what I would consider to be mainstream publications?
I publish everything on my website where people can read it without. I've written articles to newspapers, and what they do is the editor takes out all the prepositional phrases and turns it back into adverb verb before he publishes it. I've done
Okay.
interviews. I've done interviews for television, and they come back and say, we can't put this up because you disqualify our TV stations, our newspapers, our magazines, our laws. You know, I had 14 major networks interview me for that Jarrett nonsense down in Arizona because he's screaming grammar. He didn't know who I was. There's no evidence of him ever knowing who I was. But the point was that these 14 organizations showed up at my house in Milwaukee and did a 2-hour interview each. And the only thing they said publicly worldwide was, David Miller is not a violent person, does not believe in violence, and says that Jarrett was crazy. That's all they put up on the internet. After a 2-hour interview of learning about how much fraud is being perpetrated and spread out there by the newspapers, magazines, TV, and radio through misuse of language. They said we cannot talk about parsing, syntax, grammar on national TV. And yet Monday night, Obama said, you guys want to talk about parsing, syntax, grammar on CNN?
Monday night,
And then
he said
there
that.
was nothing else except that statement. You guys want to talk about it? Clinton and Hillary have both been students of mine for 15 years. I know that Clinton's been working with Obama for about 4 years now on parsec syntax grammar. And so the
Okay.
minute the press get in his face, he says, "You want to talk about syntax?" And all of a sudden, like everything stops.
Right.
So
Okay.
don't tell me don't have an agenda to keep the people dumb.
Oh, absolutely. All right. I'm looking for. I see that people are putting in personal information into the chat, but that's not really going to help me ask good questions for the remaining 20 minutes that we have with David. Is there any particular questions that you would like? You want him to explain the statute that requires parse syntax grammar, I guess is what they mean. Is there a statute that allows for that?
Parse is a dictionary for the Masons on all the syllables and what the syllables translate to. Take the word justice, Justice, Ju means no law, S is PTI is title, CE is judge. But you read it in the reflection of a mirror, judge titles speaks no law. Liberty is punctuated on your silver dollars with dots. Those are prepositional phrases, making each letter to be a fact, and space. Pay close attention to your laws and the way that judges write your orders with double spacing to break the continuance of evidence. They don't print their names, they cursive their names, which means they're talking to dead people.
Okay. David, I want to ask you some of the questions that people are asking here, if you don't mind. So someone here is questioning whether or not you've actually, I guess, had judges disbarred. Is there evidence of that? Do you have evidence on your website of this?
No, I don't post that on my website.
Okay, because you must understand that people are looking for verification that you are who you say you are and you've done what you've done.
Well, criminals would really like to know the secrets of how to disbar judges so they could get away with crimes.
No, the question is, have you actually got a list? Is there a list of the ones disbarred? Not how you did it, but if of the ones that have been disbarred and the fact that you disbarred them.
Again, I'm not going to publish those things.
Okay.
Because when the people do things wrong, and I hand the forensic information over to the Justice Department and to the election board, and they are responsible to do internal affairs, to do their jobs with the forensic information and take credit for those points of information.
Okay, let's talk about the Korean statements that you made about Korea and the magma. Is this substantiated anywhere?
Well, you take planet Earth, it's a ball. And you take a line from North Korea and you go right through the magma, and where does it come out? It comes off the shore of Chile on the Pacific plate. Exactly right through the planet. And you got a 9.5 earthquake, which then sets up a vibration on the Pacific plate, and it rattles around, goes through New Zealand, underwater volcano blows up bigger than Krakatoa, and then comes right back to where it started in the trench, lifting Japan 15 feet. Chile got raised 15 feet.
Okay, but I understand that. You did state this.
Every single atomic bomb test on planet Earth that was done in deep explosions, and then look at where an earthquake was recorded on the opposite side of the planet. You're going to see that if you study the patterns over 60 years, that the vibration of the magma, which is liquid, is causing earthquakes on the opposite locations. So if you have a hole drilled 28,000 feet down in the ground, and you want to set off a hydrogen bomb that deep, you're going to shock that magma. That magma is going to go and it's going to send a shock wave to another area of the planet. It's like when you have Earth move and you have a tsunami. So you can.
Okay, but this what you're giving me. What you're giving me is your reasoning. What you're not telling me is where the scientific evidence of this. For example, you said there was that North Korea had buried a bomb, a hydrogen bomb, I believe you called it, that could then be triggered and used to blackmail the West and other countries because they could trigger a pulse in the magma that would then travel and cause earthquakes in strategic places around the globe, which I believe is quite true. However, what people are asking me is, where is the evidence of this? Is it documented anywhere? Do we have scientific information to this effect? Have the North Koreans admitted that they buried a hydrogen bomb in the magma and that they can do this? Or are they claiming they can do this?
What I said to you was that I received the email and a satellite imagery of a hole being drilled from people that are friends or are concerned to give me information so that I would talk about it.
Okay, a source, in other words.
And now other people, I don't know what the source is. The point is that when I did the math, and I took a globe and I looked at the math of geometry and looked at other explosions that took place on this planet, and I saw what happened, I could see that someone is developing something that's different, not airborne, but internal. And they start fooling around with this stuff, they're going to cause problems. So I went ahead and I put information out. When I was in China, I met with a 3-star general, and I drew out these pictures. 20 minutes later, he took him to the hospital. He was sick. Either he knew something, or the idea of what was possible made him sick.
Okay.
So when people are reacting, and math, I've always been a guy that trusts geometry and math. That's why I developed the math interface on grammar and did the things I did. And now I see that mankind has weapons. These are weapons that create pressure. That's what a bomb does. It creates pressure. You put pressure someplace, it's going to go someplace else. That energy's got to go someplace. And if you know how to do a shape charge, you're going to be able to take pressure and direct it at specific locations and cause specific events to take place. Now, if I can think of it, somebody else thought of it first. And the only thing I'm saying is that there's a group of individuals that are doing things and publishing threats on the internet. They're being very open about it. It's on the headlines of the newspapers and on magazines. And the United States government is publishing these remarks. And so I'm just if I can't get to the right person, I'll go ahead and make a statement like this on your show, on radio.
I appreciate
and
that.
Some place is going to hear this. And that person might know the right person to talk to have an investigative team look at the possibilities of preventing a very, very bad event from taking place. Now, if man has capabilities of time traveling in the future and they want to stop an event, then I'm sure another UFO or series of UFOs will show up and they will prevent certain individuals from doing something that they shouldn't be doing at this point in time.
Okay. I've got somebody who is sending some lists of some of the cases that have been dismissed. I guess dismissed with prejudice, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm
Yeah,
not.
I
I
got a
guess.
whole stack of those. That's all nonsense because those are not my case numbers. Those are not my cases.
Okay.
That's not my name. Those are not the names of the people or the venue we filed in. I went ahead and we filed a series of cases with the clerk's office, and I took the originals in, and I went to the clerk and I said, I want to talk to somebody in charge. So the senior clerk came out. I showed him these documents, and we got up on the computer, and he pulled up the files. He said, somebody cut the top of your paperwork off and replaced it with United States District Court headings. I can see that the bottom of the paperwork is identical, but the top has been cut off and changed. The case numbers have been changed. The names have been changed. And then it was dismissed with prejudice. But you are holding the original documents, and 48 days has gone past, and you haven't gone to trial, and the Rescission Act has been certified. Therefore, you have a legitimate fault document contract claim. And I said to that man, I says, if they know you're talking to and looking at these files, you'll be fired. He was fired an hour later as the chief clerk for that courthouse.
Okay. I've got somebody who's asking a question. I'm going to read the question. How can we know the U.S. authorities, such as the Attorney General, perform their role to provide relief for the claimant when the quantum lawsuit, after it is docketed by the clerk of the court and dismissed as a fiction court proceeding? That's the question.
Well, that's just it. What they do is they create the fiction court and the fiction claim, and they dismiss it. They publish that to discourage people from doing my quantum lawsuits because my lawsuits are an embarrassment to the world of fiction. So, this is the real live movie of Wag the Dog. They keep wagging the dog at the people. They keep slandering me, but then people read my website and they figure it out for themselves, and they know when they've been lied to. The closer you get to combat, the more flack you're going to get. Okay. That's reality. I mean, you're in the business of flack. You're in the business of combat, and you get a lot of flack.
Absolutely. Okay, someone wants to know when you were pronounced dead for, I think it was, I forget how long, was it an hour?
35 minutes.
35 minutes. Do you know, were you aware of anything during that time?
No. I was under sodium pentothal. I was asleep the whole time. Whatever my body went through, whatever happened, it happened. And
have you ever
back together? I'm alive, and that's all I know.
Have you ever considered being regressed?
Oh, you mean through hypnosis to find out what happened
when
I was unconscious?
Sure.
No, not interested.
You're not interested? Okay.
No.
Okay. Someone else, let me see, wants to know, did you happen to know if you have any implants?
No. You go through those. I've been scanned at the VA with a CAT scan. There's nothing in me that should be there. Got a few things missing, my tonsils are missing, my kidneys missing, a couple ribs are missing.
Okay, I have a question for you about that. Why did you have such an incompetent, you said I believe you said he was Korean surgeon who was incompetent. Why was such an incompetent person operating on you in the first place?
A South Korean student.
Why? Why would you have somebody like that operate on you?
Well, I'm 25 years old and unconscious, and I know who's cutting into me. I don't know. I hired a lawyer to sue the court. sue, and they waited 1 year and 4 days before they filed the suit. Even though I filed immediately, they drug it out and got paid off. The lawyer got paid off by the hospital to drag the suit out beyond the point of legal damages, which was 1 year in 1976. So I didn't get a nickel out of it. I just got damaged. That's all.
Okay.
But all clouds have silver linings.
So, right, because in a sense the world is benefiting because of what happened in a very strange way.
It's given me, not having adrenaline allows me to not have a high and a low, allows me to be stable and steady. My endorphins keep me very calm and focused. And it also has improved my IQ to over 200 to calculate and analyze and do huge amounts of work in a very short time.
Okay. I'm trying to see if there's any other questions that I might not have asked you that have been put into the chat. I guess you'd have to repeat. It's hard for me to the chat goes by very quickly, so I have to sort of grab the questions, and sometimes it's hard to see. It says, in a 9-hour seminar, you gave a cure for cancer, but there was an audio problem. Could you discuss the cure for cancer and or arthritis?
Okay. Protein, and I don't care what your protein is, cancer's a protein, cannot reproduce itself while engaged in a fever. You have to identify what protein cancer you have and what the temperature of the fever is that stops it from reproducing. All protein will die eventually, so you also have to know what its life cycle is. If you have a protein that dies, let's say, in 125 hours at 105 degrees, that would be like ovarian cancer or lung cancer or brain cancer. Those three take 105 degrees for 125 hours at 2 atmospheres of pressure for 16.8% oxygen. If you have malaria, you get a fever of 103 degrees. It lasts for 4 to 5 hours, and you kill 90 to 95% of the malaria virus. Now, if you artificially increase your temperature to 104 degrees for 8 hours, you will permanently cure yourself of malaria. Or 105 degrees for 6 hours, you'll permanently kill yourself of malaria, and you'll never have another episode.
Okay.
So if you do a study of what the protein is, and you break it down into 1/10 of a degree, starting from 100 to 105, and time from 0 hours to 125 hours, it'll create a graft. As the temperature goes up, the lifespan of that protein is shorter, and it will not reproduce, and it'll die without reproducing. If you want to purge 100%, including dormant cells, they will all die within that graft. And you can do that with every known, all 1,800 varieties of cancer, and you can do it successfully. You can also take Hulda Clark Sapper technology, which works on radio frequencies. And they've also isolated over 1,800 frequencies that will kill the DNA of a protein. With that DNA now identified, that single cell will die. Now, you've heard of 1 square mile of fish dying, 1 square mile of blackbirds falling out of the air, 1 square mile of bees dropping dead, and only of that species. This is a Zapper satellite. It's in orbit. And they've done this to 38 different species that I've read about on the internet. All around the world.
The question is why?
Well, you walk through the airport radar detectors, and they say these things are harmless. The only thing they have to do is read your radio frequency of your heart timer and map out the entire different species of humans. And now when they want to remove one species of humans, they just have to target the DNA timer of your heart, which is no bigger than the tip of your little finger, and hit that from space, and your heart will stop beating. You'll fall down dead.
Okay.
That's a pretty sick little toy they got up there right now.
Absolutely.
I don't know how many toys they got up there, but that's a real possibility of why we have to go through X-ray scanners at the airports.
Makes absolute sense.
They're reading your DNA of different components of your body when they scan that. That goes into a database.
Sure.
So they can do it by blood type. They can do it by skin tone. They can do it by bone density, by marrow. There's all kinds of different ways they can use that zapper.
Okay. Someone is asking about the link between endorphins and a high IQ. What is the link up there?
The human mind, the brain, uses an amino acid called an endorphin. You have 12 different blood groups and you have 8 different endorphins. That gives you 100 to 1 odds. You're going to find the exact blood type and endorphin for your matchup. The point is that you can artificially produce this exact endorphin. A young man was injured in a car accident and came to my seminar in Denver, Colorado, and his father was a surgeon. And I told him about how my IQ had increased because of my endorphins. So he went ahead and he isolated his son, who had an IQ of about 70, and he was mentally retarded. And he then found that endorphin for the brain and fed him 400% dosage of that specific endorphin. And the boy's IQ went up 1 point every day that he was on this diet. I went back to the same area, to the same hotel 4 months later, and that man came in with 130 IQ and put on a presentation where everyone saw him at the first seminar and saw him at the second seminar, where he was normal and could communicate and had a job and was learning how to re-educate himself at a very accelerated rate, I might add. He was about 29 years old, this young man. And I have my own nephew was going to college, and he was in electronics, computeronics. He says, "Uncle, how do you stay awake so long and get so much work done?" I says, "Well, I have the correct endorphin." So he went and he found his endorphin, completed a 4-year college degree in 3 years with straight A's, and owns his own computer company today. And that kid is the man is very much a genius today at the age of 29. So it's been proven, and I've seen it happen with many of my students around the world who have heard this and have gone out and find their exact endorphin and have gotten smarter and improved their lifestyle because they can accomplish more things. So yes, it does work.
Okay.
Just you have to take time to do your homework, like anything.
All right. Thank you for that. Are you familiar with the lawsuits, such as the one that Neil Keenan put in? Well, he's taken it down several times and rewritten it. I'm not sure what the status of the current
I showed the Keenan lawsuit just yesterday morning.
I see.
And when I looked at it, it took me less than 40 seconds to read it. And it's all adverb nonsense.
Right.
Okay. If he were to write it in the correct parsing syntax grammar, he would probably have something that would have enforcement or have the force to accomplish what he is trying to do. Now, the email I'm going to send you is probably the information that Keaton really needs.
Okay. Well, it's actually the Indonesian government that was employing Keenan to write the lawsuit, from what I understand. It's
Well,
that they are
that's
the
just
ones that have the.
that's just one facet of something.
All right. Well, but
But I'll let you pour over what I'm sending you.
okay. Is it something that can be published? Have you published it, or is this
No,
confidential?
no. Well, I if I were you, I would read it
Uh-huh.
and then think about it.
Okay.
You're gonna have to make your own decisions on this one.
All right, fine. I'm happy to do that. Okay, someone is saying in the chat that North Korea is declaring martial law. Do you have any thoughts about that?
They can declare whatever they want. I have no power over that.
I know, but I guess they just want your opinion. I'm not sure why they're writing that.
uh, I haven't read the newspaper or seen an article on the internet about martial law. I did catch the headlines that they made comments about their rockets that they're developing,
Yes.
which I think is quite redundant because of the satellite technology. Will just knock it down before it even gets off the ground. So
Right.
all it's to do is it has a guidance system, runs on electricity, and they can target it at the speed of light, hit it with an EM pulse, and it's all done.
Yes. Uh, okay. Let's see. Someone is asking about. Are you familiar with Kesh, the Iranian physicist who came up with what's plasma physics and supposedly can power, well, a spaceship going interstellar, for one thing.
Kesh, I've been showed this information from Kesh. Um, haven't done a lot of research on it beyond just looking at what's on the web. So
Okay, well, I've done a couple of interviews with him. Someone is asking, could you rewrite the contract for the Kesh Foundation in such a way that it might be advantageous for the peoples of the world so that this technology could be released?
anything's possible.
Okay,
I
fair
mean,
enough.
I don't know what he wants. I mean, if he contacts me, I'll have a discussion with him.
All right,
I have
fair
quite
enough.
a few projects on the table right now that have to be accomplished. Trying to standardize communications on a planet level, so that it doesn't matter what your topic is in the yellow pages, that it's all covered by international law, so that you learn how to read and write in the correct manner. Simple as
Well,
that.
in a certain sense, copyright law must be directly affected by this as well, right?
The
As well as
information,
patents.
my
Patents.
technology, yes, it is copyrighted, but the
No, but what I'm
information
saying
is put
is,
out there for everyone to use on the internet.
no, what I'm saying is that your way of rewriting contracts directly affects, for example, patents, I would think.
Oh, it affects everything. Yes, there's no topic in fiction it doesn't touch. And you got 85. When the Secret Service came to my house, they said, "You realize what you've done? You've just destroyed every treaty, trust, and contract written in 8,500 years and 5,000 languages by doing that." He says, "I know." He says, "That makes you Pandora." Now, the three-word phrase, destroyer of worlds, destroyer is a pronoun. It also means no contract. Of is an adverb, making world to be a verb. I destroyed the world of verb because I exposed it for what it is, a fiction. So that's about as simple as it gets.
Okay. Let's see if. Okay, I actually forgot what I was going to ask you. Was something about rewriting. Oh God. Oh, I know the Tau 9 Treaty. Are you familiar with what's called the Tau 9 Treaty or any of the treaties that were supposedly signed with various ET races by the secret government?
If you're gonna, you'd have to send me a copy of something like that for me to syntax it. I could say yay or nay in a
Okay,
second.
so in a sense, you know, because a lot of those treaties have been violated by the ETs that they were made with.
Well,
Uh,
if an ET gets a hold of syntax, he can look at the treaty he just signed and say, hey, we've been lied to. We didn't know, you didn't know, and the treaty's no good. Now we both got to learn how to read and write. You know, this technology is not only for planet Earth, it's a fact that when ET does show up, he's going to want to be able to communicate with a mathematical treaty so that it cannot be manipulated for the wrong reasons. In other words, that closure and the volition of closure has been closed, which means to define or give the terms of all the words and the volition of why it's being written to be correct. You know, we throw stones at each other, but we're on a rock. It says no deposit, no return. You go ahead and get into a war with a planet that's 100 times bigger than us. They throw a rock at us. It's going to be another story of dinosaurs extinction. And, you know, we don't want that to happen. So learning how to communicate mathematically so that it doesn't matter what language you speak or what planet you come from, you know you're not going to get cheated. 1 plus 1 still equals 2, whether you say it in Earth or you say it in Mars or any other planet in the universe.
Okay. All right. We've been going now for a little over 2 hours, so I'm going to close this down. Is there anything that you would like to say, David? And I want to thank you very much for being patient with my questions, with the questions from the audience, and with the technology that we're having to deal with here. And I'm sorry we weren't able to get you as much on video as I would have liked. But it's better to get a clear audio signal than not. But is there anything else you would like to cover that you didn't get a chance to talk about?
Well, if people study, all these people that are in foreclosure in the United States, the 64 million mortgages were not signed by the bank. Lloyd's of London disqualified all title insurance mortgage policies. The title insurance policy has been canceled. November 6, 2010, when a bank says they're going to refinance you and then they foreclose you instead, they're only doing a sorry about that. When they are doing a delay of tactics, they're trying to run out the 1-year moratorium on Title 46, Chapter 781, which is Maritime Law of Salvage, where the banks never owned your mortgage or your property, but they're going to file a salvage claim because you don't own it either. You're only a trustee. And as long as you pay your trustee fees, they let you stay there. But when you don't pay your trustee fees, then they go ahead and they try to salvage the property and put it back into their own trust. Then every 45 days, that trust gets changed. So if you find out where the trust is, sue it. By the time you get your 45-day wait time to go to court, it's been moved into another trust. That's how the banks have been staying ahead of the foreclosure business with the Attorney General's office. But once a fraud and a crime has been reported to the Attorney General's office under Title 11, Section 101, it must be pursued. And when these documents are filed in the correct parse, syntax, grammar, they don't expire. And, you know, everybody wants their case heard immediately, but they're on rotation. And even though they're on rotation, back in 2008 when the cases were, or 2007, when there was very few foreclosures because the market was virtually exploding and it was very easy to buy and sell properties. They were able to settle claims very quickly. Now we're 4 years into the collapse of the mortgage industry with 22 million foreclosures, and the banks plan to add another 10 million, bringing it to 30 million by December. So the United States Justice Department they advertise that they're going to hire 3,000 more attorney generals, bringing that to 4,000 to process the claims in a faster manner, because each one of these claims are worth $25 million to the United States Treasury. They could pay off the national debt in 2 years if they do this correct. Now, if they, by seizing by the banks confessing to false and misleading statements and admit to the $25 million fine under Title 15, Section 78 FF for false and misleading statements, then you have the government would get their 25, but they would pay between 15 and 35% whistleblower fees to the person who supplied a correct parse, syntax, grammar identification of the fraud to the Justice Department. That would become a legitimate whistleblower with a quantumized lawsuit that didn't use modification. Then that individual would have enough cash to pay to clear title on his property, pay off his debts, and then buy a $7 million CD in the same bank. That bank would then be able to fraction bank the CD, which would be on a 10-year, probably 5% payback, and make $70 million where he just paid $25 million out. The United States government would not have to sell bonds to print more money because the fraction banking would cover that. The banks would then be covered and would have more money to lend out for MasterCard or for business and improvements. The IRS would then be able to collect the income from the caretaker fees, which is the labor to guard property as a trustee, guardian, and caretaker, which comes to $87,400 a year at minimum wage. The interest under the Rescissions Act and Clayton Act would amount to 4 times refund back to the homeowner, because he deducted that from his taxes as a tax break, would have to be added back out as earned income, plus the amount of royalties that he's getting. This is all coming out of this total amount of money. And the IRS, we estimated, would get about $3.5 million on an 8-year mortgage for every one that we turn in. So the court would get paid, the bank would get paid, the homeowner gets paid, and the Internal Revenue Service gets paid. It's a win for everybody. And the laws would get changed because Congress would change the laws eventually and pay off the national debt, because the bank owes the United States Treasury $400 trillion because of false and misleading statements on 64 million mortgages.
Okay. That's very substantial. I have one last question for you. Do you know anything about what is called the revaluation of the dinar?
No, that's, if it happens, it happens. I'm not going to comment on it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. So thank you very much for spending the time with us, David. I'm sure people have been very interested in what you had to say, and I think that they will find this helpful, as we've been able to really drill down in various areas without interruptions, etc. So perhaps we can do this again in the future if the opportunity arises, and if you would like to come on the show again. I just want to thank you very much for your patience, for your service to humanity. and encourage people to, if they wish, take advantage of the things that you're teaching, and perhaps its application can become more widespread and directed maybe on the larger stage, having to do with governments and the power structure, and then that would really move things.
Well, thank you for having me on your show, and I'll be happy to do it again at your convenience.
Okay. Okay, thanks everyone for listening.
All right, you have a good night.
Okay, you too. Take care.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye.